Sam Amick, how are you? How's the trip going to the airport?
Good morning, guys. Trip is going well. We are en route. We're on schedule, so no complaints. Thanks for having me.
You're traveling in a group?
We, meaning myself and my new Lyft driver this morning.
Oh.
Now I'm feeling guilty. I didn't look at the app. Reggie. Me and Reggie.
Reggie.
Is
it me and Reggie?
Reggie and I.
Right, thank you,
Dave.
Sam. You're a writer, Sam.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sam,
I'm not a speaker, Dave. I'm a writer. I'm not a speaker.
Listen, I texted you Sunday, or I think I called you, and obviously you were busy, of course, and I haven't had a chance really to catch up with you all week. I mean this sincerely, Sam. How are you? I have been thinking about you a lot this week because, as we said before you came on, you wouldn't claim to be best friends with Kobe. I understand that, but you cover the sport, and you've covered him quite a bit. And I've really kind of felt for a lot of the writers, especially you, and having to cover this all week. How are you doing?
I appreciate the question. Like you said before I jumped on, I mean, listen, credit to Luke for having kind of, even with his long and deep background with Kobe, having his first thoughts go towards the fact that there's so many people affected by the accident. And because Kobe's the famous guy, certainly we focus on him, but it's pretty unspeakable what happened and the family's affected. It's just, I know it's cliche to say that it leaves you speechless. It does. To your question, like, that presents a bit of a problem to be speechless or to struggle to express yourself when your job is to write.
Right.
So, like the day you called me, I keep qualifying it. I'm trying to be very responsible to not be melodramatic. But, yes, it was the toughest professional day I've ever been through when not only did it happen and you're stunned, but we don't normally have deadlines at the Athletic. But with a situation of that magnitude, it was kind of the first time where I felt like I was back at a conventional newspaper where it was, roughly like, hey, we need to have your column in about 3 hours and no more. And I spent about 2 of those hours just staring at the screen, and I couldn't figure it out. And there's delicate stuff with his story that you're trying to be both sensitive to in terms of the emotions of the moment, but then journalistically responsible as well, which is a tough twofer to pull off. So incredibly long week, and I've already been in LA for 2 days. I'm headed back right now. It was very heavy. The grief was everywhere. I wrote some of this stuff, and I think this story will probably be up later in the day, is just I came back to Sacramento and kind of made the mistake of thinking that getting outside of the LA bubble would be a little bit of a mental respite. And I get here, and there's a Kobe billboard right when I hit the freeway. My 13-year-old, who obviously is the same age as Gianna, told me that in PE in the locker room here in Sacramento, a Kobe chant broke out twice out of nowhere. My wife, who's a middle school teacher, telling me about kids, putting pieces of paper, balling them up and shooting them at the trash can all day long.
Yep.
So it just was, not that I didn't know, but it was a reminder of the scope of his impact and the fact that he was nothing short of a global icon.
Sam, as a writer, when you're saying it's tough for you to put the right way to communicate, or the way you feel good about communicating a story about him and that challenge, I marvel at the people that kind of know the right thing to say that might be soothing or peaceful or it just, I'm impressed by that, and everybody wants to feel better, and it takes a different time to do that. Have there been an article or two that you've read that you go, man, that's just really well done and well written, that just grabbed you personally and just said, man, that's awesome?
I mean, the first one comes to mind because it just resonates so much, and he's also a really close friend, is Howard Beck of Bleacher Report. Wrote a column on Kobe, and not only is he a guy that I'll read every time he writes, but Howard covered Kobe as a beat writer for the Lakers back in the day, and he was there at the beginning. It was fun to read because a couple of the anecdotes Howard had already shared with me personally, and then, certainly I wish he'd never had a reason to share them publicly, but he did. And one of them in particular that did kind of make me smile was that because he was there when Kobe first came into the league at the age of 17, he tracks him for a lot of those early years. Well, when Kobe retired at the age of 37, Howard had actually decided to not attend Kobe's final game. And I forget the specific reason, but at some point during the course of that season, he kind of preemptively told Kobe, hey, don't be mad at me, but I'm not going to be there the night when you hang him up. And in true Kobe fashion, he just lit him up. And I don't even know if Howard gave the R-rated version. I think he watered it down a little bit. But it was just like, listen, mother effer, you were there at year 17. You're not going to be there at year 1. You're not going to be there at year 20, when it's a wrap. And so that night, I remember it made me laugh because, like, Howard, who's this long-tenured, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, Howard controls his schedule. Nobody tells Howard what to do. And that night at the arena, he's walking around going, yeah, I'm only here because Kobe yelled at me.
Sam Amick of The Athletic joining us right now. Sam, it's almost relief's the wrong word, but when you start talking about other things and how we move forward, and we meaning the NBA, fans, all of that stuff. Jason and I were talking yesterday about the Hall of Fame. Kobe, obviously, they bypassed the Hall of Fame normalcy, and he of course would have been first ballot anyways. He's going right in, but it's also a Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett season, or a year, I should say. And we started thinking, gosh, that's a tough spot because don't you kind of feel like the Kobe induction should be its own event? And I almost, and I know they'd be the last people to complain about this, but Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett are icons in their own right, and I feel like deserve the attention. I feel like there'd be no other way for it to be but awkward for them on that day because anyone, including them, is going to want to do is celebrate and praise and love Kobe. I'm just wondering out loud with you, Sam, if there's any sort of a backroom conversation going on right now where maybe they can separate the events, they can move past them, do something to really kind of give both Kevin and Tim their due, and also obviously Kobe as well. Right.
Fair question. I don't have a ton of insight at this early stage on that. It wouldn't shock me if they were talking about it. No other comps come to mind in terms of that sort of unique setup. Jared Colangelo certainly is a guy with a lot of juice in that Hall of Fame space, and so he'd be the one who would be having those types of conversations at this point. But your point is valid, especially because, not to diminish anybody else who's previously gone into a hall, but that particular class is not only just as good as it gets, but it's, those are the types of guys that in this generation, I think the fans would want that opportunity to celebrate it. Like, if we're being honest, there's plenty of years where a bunch of players go in and the mainstream public, barely remembers who they were.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That is not the case this year. So, we'll have to wait and see. I think it's going to make I think emotionally it's going to be just a very tiring season. Really for me, because it's not going to go away anytime soon. I even find myself like I need to write about the trade deadline again soon, and I just don't care, and that element is not going away. We've talked in media circles about just how do you cover things. Like the trade deadline story, I told a buddy of mine, I was like, I think I literally might just write, like, I don't really care about the trade deadline, but it is happening, so here's what I think.
Right.
Like, for the sake of honesty, but
why wouldn't you write that, Sam? Why wouldn't you?
I might. Listen,
that's fair.
The cool thing, and I know I come on here all the time and sound like a commercial for the place I work at, but that is the need. I could not write that style at some of my previous jobs. Our place is wide open, and so I would have the freedom to, and probably will. But it's my head and kind of your heart is kind of stuck in neutral as you just keep trying to process it. And part of it is I'm heading to that game Friday.
Yes.
And kind of choosing, I don't feel like I'm going to be in LA tonight. I'm not going to the Clippers-Kings game. I have a weird thing. I just kind of decided, like, you know what? I can't do it twice. Like, I'm not going to Staples 2 nights in a row and having that be the time when it gets acknowledged in his building what happens. So I'm going to kind of keep it more Lakers focused, and tomorrow night's going to be a lot for everybody, and then just kind of take it from there.
Yeah, I'm anxious to get your reaction to being down there, to being around the Lakers, because, early stuff that we've seen come out, Frank Vogel has said things like this. really had, I mean, we know they're family basketball. That's the way it works. They're around them more than their own family, but that's brought them closer together, this tragedy. LeBron has said stuff, Sam, like, I have these broad shoulders for a reason. It is my responsibility to continue to lead this team through this tragedy. And it doesn't feel like at some point you get into a moment of reflection and celebration. It's still in that sorrow and sadness point. I really will be interested to hear your stories of what that'll be, because, I mean, there are a lot of people still mourning this, and understandably so, but just how that Laker team is going to take this all in with that first game and then just really on a nightly basis going forward.
No, for sure. And shout out to buddy and colleague. So Bill Oram, who covers the Lakers at our place, wrote a really insightful piece the other night where he got a bunch of information about how the Lakers took that first step forward. And they had a team meeting inside the practice facility in El Segundo, second floor of the building inside of what's called the event suite. Incredibly emotional stuff, and Bill captured it. So Frank Vogel was basically the MC, grabs the microphone, kind of gets it going. They had, a video clip playing of everything from Kobe highlights to, they actually even pulled like the worst Kobe commercials to put in the video, and then some other lighthearted stuff to lighten the mood. So Frank MCs, but he talks for a moment. Rob Pelinka, Lakers GM, lifelong friend of Kobe's and lifelong agent, or not lifelong, but longtime agent. Rob is very emotional, gets up, says a few words, and the dramatic part, as Bill told it in the story, was that Frank tries to figure out who's going to talk next, and there's like 15 seconds of silence, and then sorry guys, LeBron got up and said, I'll go. And then Jason, the quote that you mentioned about his broad shoulders and whatnot, that's what he told their group. So they're trying to move on. Dwight spoke, and from what we heard was incredibly emotional. And you think about the history between he and Kobe going at each other. So they're trying to move forward. And the stuff that you're talking about with the mourning and that transition to the next phase, that's also like tough to figure out media-wise. Like last night, I had a chat with Vlade where I had decided to try to collect a few Kobe stories that were more lighthearted. And he gave me a really fun one. It was a great one. And like I socked it away, and I'm going to keep trying to get others from other people. But after we talked, I had that thought, like, I wonder, is it going to be a week, 2 weeks? Like when can you, kind of go down that kind of a road? Because, I don't feel like we're there just yet.
No, and Sam Amick joins us. But I think our minds begin to wander as it's, a stranger than fiction Hollywood ending type of thing. No pun intended, but a Hollywood ending where I also find it potentially, and this is coming from a diehard Kings fan who cannot stand the Lakers in any way, shape, or form, but I have to admit, the fact that the Lakers are the best team in the West right now and were already championship contenders, I find my mind wandering at times, and I have a real hard time, Sam, and you've known me for 20 years, I have a real hard time imagining a situation where I wouldn't deep down be rooting for the Lakers in the NBA Finals this year, just as a cathartic, special moment that you couldn't write. There's certainly, to your point, I think there's going to be different levels of how everybody deals with this tragedy, but it's certainly going to be dealt with for months and years to come. I just hope in more of, as we progress, more of a smile, lighthearted, lump in the throat type of way.
No, for sure. I mean, there's that, excuse me, there's that reality, speaking of lumps in the throat, there's that reality that, like, to hear you talk about how they're at the top of the West and the basketball stuff, like, it's listen, we'll see how the season goes, because it's one of those things where, like, of course it doesn't actually matter,
sure,
but sports have that, that's the special part about sports, right, is that, what if they put a run together? Like, what's it gonna, like, that would be incredible. Western Conference Finals, like, whoever they, say they get that far, they knock somebody off in 7 games, it's dramatic. They keep going. Like, the sports are going to be, certainly for the Lakers themselves, and let's not pretend it's just about them, it's the whole league. Every player in this league is hurting to a different degree. But, like, let's see what they can make of it. LeBron, you can tell already by the tone he said that he is going to take that mentality of going out and doing it with, Kobe's spirit in mind, and certainly his family and Gianna and all the victims. So it's that's the crazy part about sports. Like, your brain tells you, like, no, it doesn't really matter, but damn, it'd be cool if they did something special.
Yep, I agree. Sam?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I know it's not nobody wants to be going through this. You got an interesting couple of days ahead of you. We appreciate you joining us. Safe travels down there, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
See you, buddy.
All right, thank you.